Hi guys. All right, pardon my appearance. I've got lip gloss on and that's it. So all right. Um as promised, I said that I would share something very personal about myself. In the group, we've been discussing all these experiences and how everything is one another. And today, of all days, I want to share something deeply personal with you guys because that's what I do. I tell my story and I use it as wisdom for all of you. And many of you, I can't fake the funk. Y'all know I'm as genuine as it gets when it comes to telling my story because no one else can tell my story, right? Just like no one else can tell your story. And it's really important, guys. It's really important that you guys understand that. So, here's what I'm going to share with you guys. I'm going to take you back in time to a time when I used to be my mother. And it's really important that I share this with you because, as I said, it's the same soul looking at itself from all angles. So anyone that has a problem with their parents have not understood that your parents are playing the role that you need to in order to see into your unconscious waters, because the object of the game is to make the unconscious visible. So back in the day, when my mom was younger, she went through a very traumatic experience. And as such, perhaps her powers, the same ones I have right now, were activated. However, because she was in a very low vibrational place and because there was no explanation for what she had, she was misdiagnosed. Okay? So I'm taking you back in time to have you understand the parameters of this, all right? This traumatic experience caused a complete nervous breakdown in my mother, okay? And she confided in me one day, but I will backtrack a little bit more and say that she had a complete and total nervous breakdown. It was really bad. And they basically said, when I was only about 2 years old, that if my mother didn't stay in the hospital, she would never recover and she would become a complete and total vegetable. Okay? Now, during those times for mental health, there was nowhere to go. You put the drug addicts with someone who had schizophrenia, with someone who was recovering from alcohol. You put everybody in one place because we didn't have money. And so this was the state ward, and that's where my mom was. And she faked her way out. And she told them that she did not hear voices in order to escape where she had been placed in. Because the breakdown meant that she heard voices. And so, as such, one day when I was 12 years old, my mother shared this story with me and explained to me about her nervous breakdown. And she told me, I still hear voices. So I'm only 12 years old. My own powers have not been activated. And as such, I was like, holy fuck, my mom is nuts. I'm only 12 years old. You're going to have to excuse me. That's what I thought. And it was a very difficult point in my life because I was like, wow, my mom is nuts. Wow. She's been holding on to this forever. And yeah, okay, 12-year-old mind and processing ability, that's as far as it got. And that's as far as I could process. And so I spoke to my aunt about this story, and my aunt's like, yeah, babe, that's why we took over your care. And that's why, as a newly married woman, you came under my care. And she started crying profoundly, deeply, because she was the reason, partial reason for her breakdown. Partial, not all. She felt totally responsible because it was kind of like the straw that broke the camel's back. And she told me it was really, really hard, Sin, because I used to pick you up and your mom would be let out on the weekends. And I used to pick you up and you were too small to remember because you were in your car seat. And your mom would be like, do you hear the voices? Do you hear the voices? And my aunt would just cry because this is the same woman that raised her. Sorry. And it was a very difficult point in my life because I didn't understand why my mom was gone. Yes? Okay. So, as such, you have to understand that's as far as I got in terms of understanding. I thought, wow, my mom is bonkers and she hears voices and, that kind of thing. Well, if you know anything about me and you know my genetic makeup, my father is a spirit walker. He can remote view, he can astral project, he can see spirits, he can see things that other people cannot. And my mother is too. My mother is clairaudient and an empath. So when you put the two together, you get one genetic crazy mess. That would be me. Okay? And at 18, that was when it happened. I heard voices. They would call me and they would talk to me. But I would look for them and could not see them. But I heard voices. I told no one. I held that deep inside because that would mean that if I'm my mother's daughter, then if I was hearing voices, then the only logical explanation for what I had was called schizophrenia, and that I was just as crazy and paranoid as what my mom had been diagnosed, and as such, I would never tell a soul. I was deeply embarrassed, but just like my mother, who faked her way out by saying she did not hear voices, I did too. I didn't tell nobody. Okay? Wasn't telling a soul. Because here's the thing. I could do things, but I wasn't raised by my father, so I could see things, I could hear things, I could do all kinds of things. And when I was 18, and accelerate after I had my son, and after I had all of these things going on, more powers became available to me. Things that I did not understand how they worked. So I was learning on the job. And I could not tell a soul. I could not tell a soul what was going on with me. Because that would mean that by psychiatric standards, I was in that case. But I was looking for answers. And so I stumbled across the psychic community. And again, voices, I'm attuned, I'm psychokinetic, I can feel things, I can hear things, and I trust them guts, okay? Because we have a really special relationship in which I hear all the time. And I went into a psychic fair. I must have been 28. I was under 30. I had both my children already and this deep, dark secret that no one knew, but I was still looking for answers. And I walked into a psychic fair, and so you'll see that in that psychic fair, there was everybody. There was tarot card readers, there were psychics, there were Akashic record readers. I mean, there was the gamut, okay? But as an empath, I'm a human lie detector, right? And so you knew which psychics were real and which weren't by the way that they worked. I could see totally plain as day, you're reading their cues and you're not psychic. You're just really good at reading cues. You're not psychic. I don't really need tarot cards. But again, because I can read my own. Again, I was only 28. But I'm trying to tell you that I could tell just by looking and being in people's presence who was legit and who was not. So I have this thing where I feel the air, I look for things, and I trust my gut. So I go around, and this is a long time ago, you guys, because I'm an old woman now. But when I was about 28 or so, and under 30, I'm sitting here feeling my way against everything that was at that psychic fair. Enter Psychic Bob. If you look for him on YouTube, you'll find him. And this man has no idea that he saved my life. He has no idea that he bought me out of the quote-unquote spiritual psychic closet. Right? But again, I'm going, And everybody's, 20, 40, 50 bucks, 50 bucks, 60 bucks, that kind of thing. But I could tell who was fake and who was real. I could tell who was spewing bullshit trying to claim that they were reading the Akash and who wasn't. I just knew. I can't explain it. I've always, as an empath, that's what you are. You're a human lie detector. Okay? So I finally get, and I was like, that's when my gut said, this one. Stop here. So I stop, and he's the most expensive reader in the house. And I'm like, fuck, man, of course. Like, I'll always choose the most expensive dude, right? And you have to understand how little money I was making at the time. And he was like 150 bucks an hour for a reading. Well, I don't even think it was an hour. It's like 150 bucks a session. And it's not a lot of money, but it was to me then when I'm this kid with a single mom with 2 children and I'm seeking, but don't know. And I sit down in front of him. I pay him. I sit down in front of him. And I have 2 things in mind. I'm not going to look at him. I'm not going to give him any clues. And I'm absolutely not going to share not one nod, not one confirmation. I'm going to give him as blank a face as I can to make sure that I was actually with the person that I needed to listen to. And for those of you that don't know, Psychic Bob is a shorter gentleman, very flamboyantly gay. I do not mean this in a negative way. I just want you to understand this because I'm trying to paint a picture. And cool guy, but super fun. And I remember clear as day, I sat down determined not to look at him. So I looked down. I refused to look at him. And I'm ready for my reading. Okay? He didn't even look at me. This is what happens next. Looks out there. And he starts talking to thin air. There's nothing there. All right, you guys? Nothing. But he's talking to thin air and he's having a full-on conversation with thin air. And he's like, what, honey? Oh, okay. Okay. I got it. Anything else? All right. And you can't help but look up. There's this man. I'm afraid to look crazy, y'all. I'm afraid to tell anybody I hear voices. And here's this tiny little itty bitty man. I'm taller than him. That's why I call him itty bitty. He's beautiful. Having an animated conversation with thin air. Okay? My sight hadn't been developed yet. I developed these things after the fact. And suddenly, he grabs my hand. Honey, I need you to know something. And I'm like, give it to me straight, like I'm so amused and smiling because I don't have words for how intoxicating, how liberated I was watching him in his full expression, just unabashedly talking to thin air, okay? And he holds my hand and he says, the first thing I need to tell you is that the voices are real. They're real, honey. And I was like, excuse me? You don't know me from Adam. I don't tell anybody. What did you just say? So now he's got my full attention. I was determined not to say shit. You understand? I was determined not to give him any facial expressions, no confirmation, nothing. All right? And he just voices is real, baby. Okay? And I look at him. And I'm stunned. Like, I'm literally in shock. I have no idea what I'm saying, who I'm, like, I'm just sitting there like he has my full attention. Because here this man had just uncovered something that I refused to tell anybody because it was a shameful thing. I was ashamed. Okay? So, honey, first things I need to tell you is that you are one of us. You are something called clairaudience. and you are able to hear voices, them voices are real. You hear the spirits, baby, so they come and find you because you hear them. That was the first logical explanation I've ever heard in my life. I was like, wait a minute, what? I'm psychic? That's fabulous. I was so happy. Like, you don't understand. Can you imagine the weight that got lifted off from my heart in that instant when that man said that to me? And he said, listen, you hear dead people. You hear them clear as day. You hear the other side. You hear everything. Technically, we're the ones that dead. They're not. And you hear them. So you have a higher hearing range than anyone else. And so you can hear into this realm. And that is why spirits will seek you out, because they need you to convey messages. Wow. That's all I could say in that moment. Wow. Like, okay. And so then he proceeded to tell me things that only he could know. For example, because of the conversations he was having with his spirit guide, I think his spirit guide at the time was named Trevor or Travis. Still maybe Trevor that's with him. But Trevor proceeded to tell him that all the books that I was reading, I needed to read, that I needed to learn about my gift, and proceeded to break down my life and even explain something that I never understood, which was my past life as a soldier. Because you see, I was having chest pains. I would have these random attacks where my heart and my lung would feel like they were pierced. Like I'd just try and breathe and suddenly it would feel like something was stabbing me. Like I can't explain it. I'd go, and I used to think I was having a heart attack. I went as far as went to doctors, okay, and had stress tests, and doctors tell me, oh my God, you're healthy as hell. I wish our heart was as healthy as yours. And I'm like, well, explain the pain. What's going on? And they're like, I don't know, you're gonna have to see, maybe you need to see a gastroenterologist or something. And I'm like, it's not heartburn, like this is not normal. And they're like, well, you're healthy, I don't know what you want me to say. You know, these are heart, like I'm literally running on a treadmill with electrodes all up on me, trying to figure out what's wrong with me. Okay? He said, and this is something that makes sense because I had the dream over and over again, and it was a long time. He connected the dots for me before I understood who I was. It's why this man is so special to me. Like, I don't think he knows. If he ever gets shared this video and he sees it, it'll mean a lot to me because he has no idea how much he saved my life. And he says, oh honey, you were in World War I, you were shot. And I was like, I know that because I was picked up by a giant blue angel, humongous, 12-foot light being, blue, electric blue. And that fucker just picked me up, adult me, male, okay, and just picked me up like I was an infant because that thing was so huge, and threw me into my 12-year-old body, which I am now, but I was 12 then. And I had that recurring dream. And he said, the reason you're having these pains, I was like, you know about my pains? Yeah. Okay. And he goes, the reason you're having these pains is because it's a memory from back then. You're reliving this moment. Your body is still under trauma in that moment, in that time. Now that you know, it'll go away. Well, it did. I've never had a problem since. But I was in middle school when I started having those pains. And by the time I was old enough to have a doctor look at it, the doctor's like, you're fine. Okay. Later on in life, I came to understand, again, always I tell you, look at your memories in reverse and a lot of shit will make sense. Later on, I told you my uncle died and that was the closest thing I've ever had to a father. Well, he had numerous heart attacks and every time he had a heart attack, I had chest pain. It's an empath thing. Okay? So again, my whole entire existence has been one mystery after the other, one mystery after the other. And so when it comes to questioning your sanity, I've done it. I've done it. And I've hid in the spiritual closet until I understood who I was. Okay? And he even went as far as there would be times there would be times where I would hear this really loud, right? It would come out of nowhere, and I'd be like, the hell is that? You know, in my house. So he even went as far as to tell me that that sound was my ginormous angel self smacking people out my way, the lower energies that were attracted to me, the spiritual things. Now, in retrospect, if I go back to my mother, if you understand this story, okay, my mother was depressed. She was very sad. The love of her life had committed suicide because I was born, and so he decided that he would never be able to get her back because my mom was married. So he committed suicide. My aunt had a situation that that my mother didn't agree with, which is why I said it's the thing that broke her back, right? And so as such, my mom was at her lowest of her low when she started hearing voices. This is why I'm telling you I was my mother, and I am now, okay? When I was my mother, those gifts had evolved, but there was no explanation for us yet. Psychics were not common. This seer thing is coming from an ancient past that comes from my origins, right? Now I know. Now I can tell you what I look like in every quantum dimension you can imagine. But when I was 28, I didn't fucking know shit. I didn't know. And now I can tell you where it's coming from, where it's coming in my bloodline, where I can break down my code in my DNA. I can turn shit on, turn shit off. Like, I can do shit. I fucking love my superpowers. But at the time, I had no idea how they worked. And I'm telling you all of this to say that it wasn't until this man opened this closet for me and let me come out, okay, that I realized that my mother was clairaudient and misdiagnosed. And that is not to say that I want to excuse people that are diagnosed with schizophrenia, okay? I'm not trying to. In fact, I've realized what it is. For me, it's an understanding that they are seeing and hearing into multiple planes of existence at once, which is something that I can do. However, here's the difference. Okay, I know what is real and what is not in my reality. And by real and not, I mean this. What is solid and what is spirit. What is solid and what is spirit. So I have a clear definition and I'm able to see quantumly throughout the whole timeline. Versus in schizophrenia, they're not able to distinguish the difference. Not solidly. So they get lost in their story. And that's basically the difference, but it's the same thing. It's an ability that needs to be harnessed and corrected, an imbalance in the brain, so that it can evolve into what I can do. Okay? The difference is this. I now see and hear spirits. I now see and hear aliens. I've seen 12-foot dimensional beings that Joe Dispenza talks about. That's my everyday reality. I see and hear angels. I command them, in fact. I do things that most people cannot do. And I know that. That's because I exist on the other side. I'm able to use this body to exist in this world, but I'm existing everywhere at once and able to do things that most people cannot. I had to evolve from being my mother into who I am right now. So I'm telling you this deeply personal story because if people want to use it as something to shame me with, it won't work. I'm at peace with my skills. I'm at peace. I'm happy. I'm fine. But back in the day, like I said, there was no explanation. Same thing happened with being an empath. Now you hear the word, it's thrown around like somebody's underwear, right? But back when I was growing up, it wasn't even a thing. Like I would mention the word empath and then I'd have to tell people what it is and I'd have to break it down and they'd be like, oh. Okay. And some people treated it like a disability. That's how I got to work from home. Because of my sensory stuff, they would allow me to work from home even. So I'm trying to tell you that sometimes people are pioneers of things. People that are autistic, for example, Asperger's, that kind of thing, they're technically from the future. Their ability has evolved before, just like my mom's ability. And so they're able to do things that others can't. This neurodivergence is necessary because our light reflects onto the world and we evolve people. But there's going to be a transition in which we're not understood yet, and our abilities and our processing abilities aren't understood. It's going to be a transition. That's what it is. And so, although I don't want to excuse things, and I don't want to excuse medical diagnosis, and I don't want to tell people not to take medications or that kind of thing, I will tell you this. Centering yourself in meditating and relaxing and breathing and being able to relax into who you are is going to take time and practice. People that are psychic, they take this somewhat for granted. They've always been connected to the spirit realm. We are here as a bridge for others. Okay? In fact, that's been the story of my life. Sometimes people call me when they're dead relatives just so that I can convey a message from the other side. I don't like to do that often because I don't want people using me as a medium. It's just simply not what I want to do. I'm beyond that. I can recommend mediums to you. It's just not what I want to do. But I have the skills. And I'm sharing this to say this. I have loved and accepted every aspect of my existence. From my grandmother, my mother, my grandmother is me, okay, and my father, and what I know, and every aspect of my memories, as far as the eye can see. I am so cool with me, okay? I don't care who thinks what, just always me. I'm not going to change that. And if you are looking for someone to love you, you're going to have to do the same. You're going to have to make peace with everything you are. Because if you don't, you might judge your parents in their moments. You won't understand that they are limited as far as they can because the time wasn't supportive of the things that they do. Or you don't understand that their wounding was necessary and that their sacrifice is huge. Because those of you that are angry with your parents, fuck you. I'm going to say that. Let me tell you why. And I'm sorry that I'm saying this, but I'm going to say it anyway, okay? Your parents sacrificed themselves and went through deeper pain than you did so that you wouldn't have to. So either you forgive them or you miss out. And I mean that sincerely. You're either going to love your shadow or you're going to encounter people that reject you. Your love life is going to suck. You're going to sit here and wonder why people aren't cool with you. Well, here's the thing. If you don't make peace with everything you are, this is what the ego uses as ammunition against every aspect of your life. So you are affecting your prosperity, you're affecting your relationships, you are affecting everything. You better say sorry and mean it. You'd better do it. You'd better do it because each generation went through more pain than you can ever imagine so you wouldn't have to. That sacrifice is not lost on me. Including my father, who did a lot of damage to me. Don't get it twisted. It's not that I'm excusing the behavior. It's that I understand it now from source and not from a victim human mindset. This is why I get angry when people use their childhoods as an excuse. I get angry a little bit because here's the thing. I already did that. You gotta let that shit go. I'm so sorry. You gotta let that shit go. You can't use your victim mindset. You just can't, to continue to use it as an excuse and the barrier you use to excuse the behaviors that you use to compensate. You need to grow the fuck up. You just need to, I'm sorry. And you need to accept what you created and you need to love every aspect of yourself. And if they beat you in the process, okay, forgive them. Because they're unconsciously running on autopilot because you asked them to. You asked them to. This is where you left off. Your parents are where you left off. They are your past. Your children are your future, and you are affecting their timeline and yours in either direction by who you are being right now, because as source, you can see in both directions. I don't exist in time anymore. I can tell you this shit for all day long. It's not even funny. Okay? And I'm telling you these things because this is the ammunition that will serve as the block towards any love relationship. You will think, oh, there's my mind, and then there's that other person out there. No. See, if you are love, you recognize yourself in everything. You're aware. You've let it go. You understand the design. You're not angry at anybody. You disarm your ego because the design is very simple. See, God had this conversation with me today. He said, baby, don't you forget to tell him to go through the inner child. And I'm like, yeah, okay. All right. Everywhere in the Bible it says, be like a little child to enter the kingdom. Why do you think that is? Y'all ever think about it? I'll explain. You see, your inner child has a best friend. It's called your ego. This ego could be as scary as you make it, and it's your protector. Call it a demon. And this demon will protect the child because this demon was loved by the child as is. Okay? This is your anti-force. This is your fear. This is your veil. This is the collection of all your rejected experiences that caused you pain. So, it forms a shadow. Okay? And this shadow can look like a beast. That's where we get these concepts of hell and bullshit that it's bullshit. Okay? But it's the scariest thing in the world. But it will do anything to protect you from experiencing pain. So, if you were in a rocky relationship with your parents, for example, and you witnessed that growing up, you are, as a compensation tool, seeking people that reject you so that you could be kept safe. And this is the ego's plan to make sure that you keep choosing wrong to keep you safe so that you won't be vulnerable or susceptible to repeating what you saw as a child growing up. So I said, the ego is not your enemy. You just got to understand how it works. Same thing goes for rejection, abandonment, humiliation, anything that you went through as a child. This ego will protect fiercely. When you are triggered, that's who's enraged. When you don't understand the design, that beast comes out. You ready to fight someone? yeah. That's your ego. And it's what blinds you from seeing that you are the entire universe at once. It's what blinds you from becoming the universe inside your partner because you're not aware of the design. So since you're not aware, you're going to be divided instead of being source. And as source, you have everything, including the love of your lifetime. As not source, you see you and the universe. There's no exception to the rule. This ego, this demon, this Satan is what is protecting your inner child. So the most important thing for you to do is to protect the inner child and tell the inner child it's okay, you're not there anymore. You designed all of these things. You designed all of the people that hurt you. You designed all of it so that you could wake up one day. Become aware. Because here's the thing. We all went through it. To some degree, you've all experienced some point of pain, yes? Well, if you've discovered this pain, it's by design because everyone has it. We put on these costumes, we put on this idea so that when we overcome it, we serve the world. Because your freedom means everything to the universe. This is God's plan. It means everything. So you must make peace with the absolute darkest aspects of your life, like I have. I told you the most shameful, most humiliating thing in my life. I don't give a fuck. It's also the way through the door. I got liberated. Okay? You must do the same. Because if you're looking for someone to love you for everything that you are and not be undivided, and if you're looking for the answer, you must be at peace with yourself. You see, I told you, it's a mirror and it's a blank screen. And in love is love reflected. So if you're not in peace in here, the mirror, which is everything else in the universe that is showing you your thoughts inside your head and your being and all your unconscious bullshit, okay? This is what's playing on the outside. Infinite patterns of your memories made into several patterns, and you think you're seeing a body. And every time you're attracted to somebody, you think there's a body out there. No, baby. You are attracted to the set of experiences that when combined with your current understanding, when you see yourself, you are able to transcend and awaken. That is the force that is attracting you to the wrong or right people. And by wrong and right, let me explain what I mean. By wrong, I mean the lessons you're going to learn the hard way. They're still right. You're just going to learn them the hard way. For example, if you attract narcissists and you sit there and you are the narcissist inside, you have to see that in order to be free of it. Because your story is making them. All right? So if you attract them, it's because you need to learn to enforce boundaries. And if you don't participate in 3D and you don't realize that you're not choosing yourself, you are going to learn to choose yourself the hard way. By design. By right people, I mean, if you are at peace and you are in love with yourself, then the people that you attract will be in love with you exactly as you are. But you're going to have to learn to discern the difference. Since the beginning of time, as women, we started off as one single egg, and millions of sperm tried to get in to become you. This natural order has not changed. In nature, it's the exact same thing. All the animals, all the male species, do what they can to separate themselves from the herd to prove themselves worthy of the female of choice for mating. And she's deciding who is worthy and who is not. So if you're not learning from the design as it is, I told you it's a woman's world. I wasn't kidding. I wasn't kidding. You know, everything, all the evidence is going to point this way. You're going to wake up to it or not. I don't give a fuck. You're going to see it. But I assure you, every creature on this earth proves itself worthy of the female. And it must separate himself from the herd. As the female, you must decide which is best. So, are you going to learn the hard way or are you going to learn the easy way? That's up to you. Because there is no right or wrong in the grand scheme of things. It's just lessons. Are you going to learn to love yourself or not? Are you going to learn to love yourself or not? Are you going to learn to love yourself or not? There's no in between here. But if you want to understand this, you are either going to be attracted to the people that are going to show you what you got going on inside so you can fix it. All right? Or you're still going to attract the people that can show you what's going on so you can fix it. But here's the difference. They're not going to hurt you. They're going to ride or die with you. But they're going to show you in a patient and kind way, and they're going to love you like you love yourself. The sacred mirror is that. When you become completely in love with yourself like I am, and I'm not ashamed to tell you that I am. I'm totally in love with myself. Okay? You will realize that you are everything on earth. You are everything on earth. When you realize this, you don't need anything. You don't need anything. You know. There's no mystery here. Everything is you. That's why in Corinthians it says it's a mirror that you are partially known until you look at it, until you know yourself whole. When faced with the mirror, well, the mirror is the outside reflection and the people that show you into yourself. The object of the game is be at peace with you, because if you don't disarm that ego, That is what the ego uses to trigger you and what causes you all to go on autopilot. And for those of you that are not aware of what I'm talking about, let me get you to think for a minute. You ever been triggered and then you react and then you want to beat yourself up for reacting and you're like, I fucking know better. What the hell? I couldn't help myself. Why did I react? Why did I do this? That's autopilot. You must stop that trajectory. That is why you are the veil. That is why you are here. This is what you are doing. This is the object of the game. There is no other. You must learn to love yourself like God does so that you can realize that you are God, that the universe is your son Christ, and that you are its source. And this is how you discover your individual identity to be the very best version of you, because now that you know that you're the whole universe, you don't lose your identity. You become the higher version of yourself, and you will be in this world, but not of it. This is scripture. It's the truth. And this isn't just scripture. This is in the Vedas. This is in the Buddhist Lotus Sutra. This is in the Tao Te Ching. It's the same message. I don't give a fuck where you put it from. Okay? God in me wrote the whole thing. I get it. You must understand too. There is nothing else. Your experience is on display. You have created a shadow in order to discover who you are. You must love your shadow. Everything that you don't think you are, you must love. And you must be undivided in order to have source perspective, because from source perspective, you will have peace. From your human understanding, you don't have shit. Okay? So the difference between 3D and 5D is really simple. 3D is what happened, and 30 seconds ago can still be what happened. It is the past. But it is your work in the present moment. That's 3D. 5D is the understanding as creator that you made it, and the ability to see the whole construct as opposed to the limited construct that you have when you're inside of it, playing a small role, pretending to be a human in the video game called life. In 5D, you understand the whole game. From 3D, you have a very limited point of perception that is completely unaware of the design, and if you judge it, you remain and die as you believe. If you do not judge it and you continue to look at it, the difference between judgment and discernment is your ability to understand the whole design from a non-victim standpoint. See, when you're in victim mode, you're in 3D, you're at the lowest level of your understanding, you're at your human part, and it's important to acknowledge the human part because you need this human experience to realize that you are God, because this human experience is what's made into different patterns and displayed everywhere around you, but you are in your mind, and there's only one mind. It's our mind. And every one of us are little messengers showing us our little thought bubbles, and we're all guests in each other's constructs. There's only one mind. That's the reason my telepathy works. That's the reason I hear you guys. That's the reason that you guys are practicing telepathy so you can hear your partner, because it's already happening. All you have to do is become aware. But it's already true. Okay? And I'm sharing this with you all because if you get this, you can have whatever you want. You're not going to do it for that reason, though. You're not going to do it for that reason. I need you to understand that, because you'll go the long way around if you say, okay, all I have to do is get it and then I can have my partner. Wrong way. Even though you need to understand you are your partner, so you lose the desire because you self-recognize, and now you can just be love in order to have love. But if you say, all right, I'm going to follow Cindy because this means I'm going to become the universe inside my person, and I'm going to get them, and they're going to see me everywhere, and they're going to obsess about me like they do for Cindy. I'm totally doing it for that reason. Wrong way around. This is the paradox. You must know yourself to get past the veil of yourself. You must know yourself on all levels. You must embrace every aspect, every painful memory. You must accept everything as your creation, or you'll never see beyond it, and you'll just be triggered. And when I tell you these things, you'll be like, I didn't choose this on purpose. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, you're still arguing from your victim standpoint. Now, I know, we all did it. I'm asking you to step out of that and grow into your full version of yourself. The full version of yourself is completely at peace with everything they are. And as such, I loved madly for it. But it's not something you try. It's not something you're after. It just happens. Why? Because I'm going to say it again. Here you are, and this is the universe that you see with your eyeballs outside of you. This is a blank screen, a mirror called time and space, from which you will see inside of you. Your body, your physical vessel, is what you use to participate in your video game called life. It's the only thing that you're using so that you can pretend to exist separate from your mind. But if you understand the design, you will be in the world and not of it. So I hope my sharing my deeply personal story like this will give you guys some insight as to the type of honesty you must have to be in love with yourself. As to the type of willingness to look at your darkness and be okay anyway. Because if you're seeking love, you're a fool. And we're all fools, right? Okay. And I say this only because if you're seeking it out there, you have forgotten that you are its source and nothing is out there, and your eyes are designed to deceive you. Which is why people that sit here and affirm to death and chase things out there have yet to understand that it's the long way around. If you understand that you are love, and that in love is love reflected, then you don't have to do anything but focus on you and yourself and being at peace with you at all times, and being like, you disarm your ego, and your ego is the only obstacle you have towards understanding this. And love is just one path to enlightenment, but I'll tell you what, it's the one worth dying for. And that's what you guys chose to do. You chose to be formless and exist in a moment so that you could die to become aware of this. So if you get this, you can have whatever you want. And if you understand this, you will not be afraid to lose yourself, which is another important part of the equation. Because real love is your unapologetic self-expression. That's what it is. That's what you're loved for. Why would you want to be loved for anything else other than who you are? All right, guys? I hope that helped. And let me see. Let me see what you guys are saying. Hang on. Thank you, guys. I'm glad you're forgiving. Yes. I wanted to ask you how to turn back time. Turn back time, what I mean by this is your time doesn't actually exist, you guys. What you're doing is remembering in reverse. So I want you to look into your memories. Try and remember your childhood. Try and remember your parents. Try and remember these things through like a childlike lens. Try to look at it from a perspective and remember that no matter what you see while you're sitting here thinking and ruminating about these things, is that it's just a movie. You're not actually there. And you're, to the degree that you're able to remember in reverse, you're able to use this knowledge, and this is the knowledge that is being recycled back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, so that you can perceive your quantum timeline. There really isn't anything. It's not linear. You actually are the maker of time and space. The space gap between you and another human being is very simple. Here's the thing. If you don't recognize yourself as them, you see them as separate, and so you have an illusion of two bodies. Okay? If you recognize yourself, you still have both bodies, but these two bodies are one. And in my case, we trade bodies, we trade perspectives. Sometimes I'm the masculine, sometimes I'm the feminine. I go back and forth, and I know when I've traded bodies. I know when I'm not me. I know. As crazy as this sounds. But I want you to get this, okay? The only division that will ever be created between yourself and anything, in other words, the illusion of space, is going to be your desire. Because if you haven't let your desire go, you are wanting something, you are telling your brain you don't have it, and as such, you create a division that is not there. If you stop wanting it, you simply register that you already have it, and you live in the end in that understanding. You're able to let it go, because I want you to let things go as if you had placed an order on Amazon. So you know you trust Amazon. You don't need to go check every 2 seconds. You just know that whatever you've placed will arrive within 2 days or so, unless otherwise specified. I need you to have that kind of faith. And you're not letting go to obtain something. You're letting go because you know you have it. That's the difference. When you can do that in absolute peace and you're not afraid to lose something because you've understood you're the light and your shadow will be where you are, now you're being undivided. Now you're free to see yourself. You're also free not to be triggered in the same way, because you understand that whatever trigger is happening, rather than ignoring it, which is the worst advice ever, you're able to discern and be like, oh, I didn't realize this memory is still playing. Thanks, ego, for trying to bait me into this. And you're able to see it, forgive it, rewrite it, and experience something different. To the degree that you can be at peace with yourself, this will determine the degree of peace in your relationship. And last thing, I would be lying to you if I said that as a couple, you're not going to argue. Okay? And I know this because I need you to remember, the feminine, you're down here, heart space. You feel everything. You see everything. You exist in the darkness of the void. You are everything at once. And as such, your brain works totally different. It's able to perceive things very differently. You know how we read minds? You know, you ever have that moment where someone's saying something and you give your friend a look and she goes, See, you don't even realize how that you're doing this, but you've always been reading each other's minds. Okay? That is the feminine. You are the heart of all matter, and you are existing down here in the subconscious basement of our mind. Okay? As the masculine, you are up here. All is mental, including your illusion. You're providing the light, the mind light, that animates what you feel into existence. It's Mother Earth, Father Time. All right? So you're up here as the masculine, everything mental, right up here. Woman's down here, man's right here. All right? Now I'm going to ask you to imagine that there's a 6 on my chest. And from down here, if I look up, the 6 is upside down. So it looks like a 9. Yes? But from up here, I'm looking at the 6, and I see a 6. Because as a masculine, I see a 6. As a couple, the only arguments you will ever have is your point of perception. So I'm giving a simplistic view of a man going, it's 6, and a woman going, it's 9, it's 6, it's 9. And this battle is technically with your mirror and your inability to see each other's point of view. The object of the game is to learn how to fight fair, to acknowledge that both are correct, not to discard each other's feelings, and to understand that both 6 and 9 are correct. Your ability to not fight will be best expressed as the woman that can say, baby, I see your 6. Totally get that I see your 6. Can you also see that it's a 9? And vice versa. To the degree that you can do that, your relationship will last a lifetime. It will be harmonious because you'll never be afraid to express your opinion, and they won't either. That if you censor yourself because you're afraid to lose something, you lose. Or you argue back and forth because you're refusing to acknowledge the other's point of view, so the two butt heads. Technically, you're arguing with yourself because we are both masculine and feminine, and as women, we are able to switch back and forth, and men, we are teaching men how to do this by embodying this. So as such, both must master being masculine and feminine, which is where the dynamics come in. It has nothing to do with gender and everything to do with energy, but that's what is being shown. So to the degree that you are able to fight fair, you will have a good relationship. But you must learn nonviolent communication, and you must be willing to acknowledge the other's point of view. And sometimes, if you're really triggered, because this is what the ego does, you're going to need to take a step back. It's what I do. It's my tool. But I always explain this to whoever I'm with. Listen, if I'm getting angry or if I'm getting frustrated, I'm going to back away from you. Okay? Because I know that my weakness is to go into autopilot. And you don't want my demon to come out. You don't want that. Yeah, no. Okay? So if what I do in these moments is take a moment to breathe, kind of excuse myself, and then get inside their head, and then I'm able to see 9, and I'm able to see 6, and then I'm able to come back from a calm perspective without fighting. Fights aren't common, but when they happen, it's important. Okay? If each can acknowledge where they went wrong, you're going to be fine. If each can acknowledge the other one is right together versus you're wrong and I'm right, okay? You will be fine. But at the end of the day, the only thing you are learning to do is master how to love yourself. And this body right here that pretends not to be you will do you the extreme favor of showing you either where you fall short or matching you toe to toe and loving you exactly as you deserve. That's why the focus is not on them. And I've told you this over and over and over and over and over and over again. Stop focusing out there. This is your shadow. Focus is on you. To the degree that you can be at peace, you will be their peace, and they will automatically gravitate. Here's the other thing. As women, you need to be a self-sustaining energy that doesn't make this man the center of the universe like we tend to do, okay? Yeah, let that go, or this masculine energy, so that the masculine energy can relax because it's not needed, okay? It's not needed to exist, so it can freely, of its own free will, come to you and choose you above all others because you are their peace. And this allows them to be their unapologetic self. Not the one who's censored, he's got to worry about losing his woman. You know, or she's got to worry about losing her woman, okay? Your unapologetic self. So as such, your responsibility is to focus on you 100%. You get good with you. Step 2 is treat them like you would yourself. Because to the degree that you're able to love yourself, you are able to love them. It's always a balance. But the experience that you have when people say, no, if I take my attention off of them, I'm going to lose them. Incorrect. You see, they're going to mirror you. And if you are focusing on them, what are you saying? I reject me in here to follow you. Well, most people take advantage of that, and that's a recipe for disaster. So recipe for disaster. Trust me. It's called cheating. It's called narcissism. It's called being ghosted. It's called being friends with benefits. You see, because any of these sacrifices of yourself will get you what's not love. And they have no choice but to mirror you back this way. It is a sacred mirror. And as such, you are responsible for appreciating what they showed you, because only from this source perspective can you be at peace with what is being shown here. And you lean with the skid and you take control, and the light has full control of the shadow. Because this shadow has no idea it's running on autopilot. So one of you has to wake up. Doesn't matter which one. One of you has to be aware that it's source. And then, as source, you can have whatever you want. Okay? Hope that helps. It's the truth. I hope my honesty was cool. And I really, really hope that you get this. And more than anything, I'm just as invested in your success, in love, in prosperity, in everything, because you are me and I am you. I promise you this. But this is just the megaphone I use to convey God's message. All right? Love you guys. Thank you. Thank you for listening.